Men who have been proposed to by their girlfriends, how did you feel about it? Pretty good about it, I guess, because I said yes. It was humbling. She had a learning disability and wrote, and then read out loud her proposal. She was terrified of blowing it, and it was the most important moment in her life. We were both in our 40s, and I was blown away, because after being with her for 7 years I didn't know how important it was to her. We're in our 60s now, still humbled. So I was the girlfriend. He glowed for *days* afterward, looked up the statistics, and glowed some more. He didn't care that it's typically the guy's job to do the asking. He was too busy being overwhelmed by the fact that I love him enough to ask. Okay, so a few weeks after we met, we were taking a shower together, and she corners me and says, "So are we dating? Are you okay with us dating? It's okay if you say no. Will you go be my boyfriend?" Of course, being the absolute specimen of a gentleman that I am, /s. I say, "Well, you caught me with my butthole out, I can't say no." Fast forward 4 years. We are camping. The nearest town is 60 miles away. The car is a few miles away. It's cold. And I'm changing clothes. But naked in the tent. She says, "So baby, I've been thinking." I say, "Oh Lord, let me at least put my pants on." She says, "Could you see yourself marrying me? Have you thought about it before? Will you marry me?" I said, "Well, you caught me with my butthole out. I can't say no." She thought that was hilarious. Then we had a good long chat about it. On track for getting married in April. I think it's pretty cool that she did it both times. Definitely made my life easier, and I'm sure I'm underappreciating the clarity. Edit lol, I can't wait to read all the comments. I read a few so far. I look forward to the laughs. Can't wait to show my fianc. She's gonna be embarrassed. Just awesome. The most curious thing was that when I told other people we were engaged, about 80% of the people would ask, "How did you propose?" And then I had to explain I didn't. I proposed to my girlfriend, now fiance, the other day, but my friend told me today that if his girlfriend proposed to him, he would say no and then propose to her the next day. Seems kinda stupid when the question's already in the air, but to each their own. Not me, but my mom proposed to my dad because she got tired of waiting for him after they'd been going out for almost 10 years. He was casual about it and was like, "Sure, I'll marry you." My dad was always shy and my mother more direct. They'd known each other since they were 15, so they'd been together for so long they kinda forgot about marriage. They've been married for 30 years now and still going strong. My GF walked up behind me while I was cooking, hugged me, and said, "What'll would you say if I asked you to marry me?" I said I'd probably say yes. We've been married 22 years, and I'm still waiting for her to actually propose. I asked my dad this question. I didn't want to get married, but there's nothing else to do in Cuba, so I did it anyways. We were sitting on the back porch of his house on the big patio 2-person seat thing, and his head was in my lap. Me, "You know what we should do?" Him, "What?" Me, "We should get married." Him, yep, we should." And a year later we did. My mum proposed to my dad in a pub about 2 months after dating. He said no until he found a steady job and could support them. 2 weeks later he found full-time work and said they could get married. They celebrated 30 years together in May. I love them so much. Not exactly a proposal, but my ex wanted to elope. I said no, not because I wouldn't have married her in a heartbeat, but partly because I would want my family there for it, and because I knew that her parents would disown her, and it would hurt everyone in the process. No matter how open-minded Indian families are, their world would shatter. I keep thinking how I might have answered her differently. Perhaps it could have saved the relationship. My response might have just fueled her insecurities. In fact, it's weird that this question came up today on my feed because I was thinking about it today. My wife proposed to me 4+ years ago because she knew I wouldn't do it. Secretly, I had always told my friends that the only way I was going to get married was if a girl proposed to me. As far as I know, she didn't know this. Worked out. My mom proposed to my dad. They are still married after 30 years. My dad had been married twice previously and my mother once before. He said he never wanted to get married again, and she said F*** K that. So one day, when my dad got back from work on the railroad, she was waiting for him with a steak and some scotch, and she asked him, and he said okay. The end. We'd talked about marriage before, and we'd kind of jointly decided that we probably WOULD get married at some point. I'd been married before, and it hadn't ended well, so I was a bit resistant to the idea when we got together. But we talked about it on and off over the years, and my attitudes towards it had softened slowly. The key thing was that I'd realized that my first wife and I had gotten married in a subconscious attempt to paper over the cracks in our 5-year relationship. It didn't work, surprise, and we separated about 18 months after we got wed. By the time my current wife proposed, we'd been together for 8 years, and we both knew our relationship was solid and getting better every year. There weren't any cracks to paper over. If we got married, it'd be for love, stability, solidity. So I accepted without the slightest hesitation, and we're happily married still, 6 years later. I melted. Happiest moment of my life. Didn't once occur to me what the conventional norm was supposed to be. Didn't feel emasculated or anything. Just felt so loved. Actually, I did at one point think, F***K, getting proposed to is the best feelings in the world. F***K me, I can't do this for her now. Fuck. How do I make her feel as loved as she is making me feel in this moment? F***K. This love S***T is so hard. Unfortunately, she passed away 5 months after that, and I never did get to wait for her at the end of the aisle. She just said one day, hey, wanna get married? Me, yeah. Sort it out. If you want. We got married the next Friday at the courthouse. Had a few beers at the local pub and went home. It was great. We had lived together for about a year, and one Sunday afternoon we were sitting on the couch talking S***T, and she started talking about how women could use boobs to get men to do literally anything. I argued that she was wrong, and we weren't that simple. She sat on my lap facing me, lifted up her shirt, and said, "Will you marry me?" I was sworn to secrecy afterwards, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't count. My husband says he was just fine with it. Although he didn't get proposed to by his girlfriend, I got proposed to by my future wife. He is so cheesy. Love him. I was really surprised she just casually asked me one day when we were out fishing. I did feel like I should have been the one to ask her, and it kinda ***KED with my head. But that was a little over 7 years ago, and we are still going strong. I had the ring in my hand. I was saying how happy she made me and how I wanted us to be together forever. And then she interrupted and said, "Will you marry me?" And I said yes and put a ring on her finger. Then I said, "Hang on, that was my line." And she said, "Sorry, I got excited." Then she cried a lot. Fine with it. Married 22 years and have great kids. Couldn't be better. Don't see what the issue is. I came home from work and she told me we would be getting married next Friday. I said okay. A year later she was diagnosed with end-stage renal failure and would be on dialysis for the rest of her life. 3 months after that she lost her eyesight, and a year after that she died. I'm glad we got married on that Friday. Not a dude, but I proposed to my now husband, and he was fine about it. We had talked about it a lot before, so when I asked him to marry me, it was spontaneous, so there wasn't much fanfare. He was just like, sure, and I had to explain that I was seriously proposing right now. I don't think I would have proposed if I thought he was the kind of guy who worried about traditional roles like that. The only time my proposing has ever been a problem has been for other people. When I told a colleague that I had gotten engaged the night before, she was really excited until I mentioned that I was the one who had done the asking. She said, and this is a direct quote, "Oh, well, I guess that still counts. /TLDR, other people have been butts about it, but me and my other half are fine /thrilled, and that's all that counts." This is a bit of a different experience. My now wife and I met when we lived in the same city, and then she moved away and we started dating the following year. We were long distance for 2 years, and when I finished my graduate degree I planned on moving to where she was while applying to jobs. We were planning on moving in together, but that was it. Our parents are very religious and very opposed to cohabitation. Because she lived in the same city as her parents, she was getting it bad, and they were telling her that we should just go and elope before we moved in with each other. They wore her down so much that she eventually just broke down in tears while we were talking on Skype a couple of weeks before my move and proposed to me. It wasn't a happy moment at all, and I told her that I wouldn't accept a proposal in that circumstance and that it was important to me to actually live in the same city for a while before we got engaged, and that if she didn't want me to move in with her I won't. She ultimately decided to ignore her parents and I moved in with her. We did get engaged 4 months later. I asked her and she said yes. I would have been cool with her asking me though. We've now been married for almost 4 years. I met my wife while traveling around Turkey. She is from the USA and I'm from Australia. She had been married before and told me she never wanted to get married again. 10 weeks later we were in New Orleans at a bar. She went off to get us another drink at some ungodly hour, came back and got down on one knee and asked me to marry her. She had asked the barman for something ring shaped. A key ring fashioned into a ring was the result, and gave it to me. I made a ring for her out of grass on the way home. Next morning we went shopping and brought her a ring. Been married about 10 years now. Unknown to her I kept the original key ring and grass rings, had them mounted and framed, and gave them to her on our wedding day. Technically not proposed to, but a surprise wedding. My GF/future wife told me she was pregnant after dating only a few months. I asked her to marry me and she said not yet. My daughter was born and I formally proposed to her the following Christmas. She said someday. I stopped asking. When my daughter was 5 a friend had a new child and asked my GF to be the godmother. The day of the christening she told me she was going to help set up the hall with her friend and my daughter. I was told to show up at 6 wearing my suit. I walked in promptly at 6 and there stood my GF in a wedding gown with our daughter beside her. She was holding a sign saying, "Will you marry me? We will formally be married this December for 30 years." I've been her husband for almost 11 years and have loved every minute of it. It honestly didn't bother me a bit and made me feel wanted. It took the pressure off of proposing too. We scheduled a nothing day where we spent all day in the bedroom watching TV, ordering takeaway and doing other fun things. And at the end of it all we were lying together on the bed and she timidly pulled out this little book she had made of all our best memories and adventures. Pictures of us where we traveled and hobbies we shared. I read it and it was such a her thing to do and I loved it. Then she pulled out a little white wrap thing and again timidly asked, "Would you do me the honor of being my husband?" She was so nervous it was adorable. I opened it and she had engraved the blade of a very nice pocket knife with our initials and such. It was a pretty perfect moment, so I uttered the only thing I could muster in my swirling emotions. Well, no S***T. We hugged and stayed that way laying down in the bed for a while. Nothing exciting, but also not emasculating at all. It felt right. And now we're getting married tomorrow. My mom proposed to my dad, then he revealed he was going to propose that same night. So to be fair they agreed he would propose at a surprise late date. They both proposed at Fish Concerts, a band they'd followed for about 20 years. She sent me an email at work, "Simply marry me. We do stupid jokes all the time," so the only reasonable response was, "Why would I do something silly like that?" The silence was scary. So I called her and pretty much nagged her until she asked me again. I answered better this time around. I loved it. My wife proposed to me on her birthday. She had been acting coy all week when I asked her what she wanted for her birthday. Then that morning I asked, "So really, what do you want?" And she says, "I just want you," and shows me a ring and proposes. I think I started crying, I was so happy. I had a friend whose girlfriend proposed after university, Singapore style. "Want to buy a flat?" This ex-rugby player was jumping and screaming of joy. And then we walked in. Never ever stopped disturbing him since then. Here's a story. Went to work on a Friday at around 6:30 am. She texted me around 8 when she woke up, and after making some small talk she texted we should get married. I'm thinking yeah, that sounds good, eventually. So I text back sounds good to me. Okay, end of that. Around lunchtime she calls me and says okay, next Friday at the courthouse. Yeah, sure, right. I was caught off guard, but I said I was. We contacted our immediate families and got married a week later. Everyone was supportive and it went really well. Next week will be 8 years of marriage. We have a 4-year-old son together and couldn't be happier. I wouldn't change how it happened for the world. I was absolutely fine with it, except that because she was a bit drunk at the time she kept getting back down on one knee, just to make sure the answer was the same. I think it's best to not take it too seriously. It's a funny archaic ritual anyway. Have a laugh with it. I was never that worried about marriage, but I had every intention of sticking with my now wife for good anyway. She did want to get married, and since it made her happy I was happy to do it. In the end I'm still sticking with her, so all is good. Make sure to like and subscribe for more daily content. Thanks for watching.